I have a very quiet and attentive class before me, and we'll see how long I can go without trying to break the silence. But again, if you guys are just stepping in, I see we have some new faces coming in. You'll find all of the refreshments out in the hallway. Thank you for being here with us despite the rain. Those of us joining online, thank you for being here. And I think I can turn it over and get us started.
Greetings, everyone. My name is David Powers. I'm the senior pastor here at Idlewild, and I just want to say how grateful we are to have this important conversation back here at the church. We were here a couple years ago, and it was significant for us, and so just we're grateful for the ministry of MICAH, grateful for the work of Chalkbeat, and we're hopeful for the conversations that will be had this evening. It's already been mentioned to you, but not only are there refreshments out in the TK Young Room, this large fellowship hall off the main hallway, but when you are in that space, you will be able to hear the panel conversation that is happening. There are speakers there, so you won't miss anything if you need to step out. There are also restrooms closer to the evergreen side of the building that you can utilize if you need to. But again, we're grateful for your presence here and for the ministry of this time together.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for attending this evening. My name is Vanita Doggett, and I am the Education Equity Co-Chair for MICAH. We wanted to welcome you out for our 2024 MSCS School Board Candidate Forum. Everybody give yourselves a round of applause for making it in the rain. Right? Yeah. So I also want to thank Chalkbeat Tennessee for co-hosting this candidate forum. Excuse me. Chalkbeat is a nonprofit news organization covering local education. You can connect with Chalkbeat and read the in-depth voter guide by picking up a flyer at the registration table. A special thank you to all of the candidates, to all of our candidate forum partners, the Urban Child Institute and Memphis Education Fund for sponsoring tonight's event. We salute these organizations for coming together to host this important event, and the best part is that the questions tonight were drawn from community members' suggestions. Due to the number of candidates, we've split tonight into two parts. The panel for Districts 4 and 7 will start momentarily, and the panel for Districts 2, 3, and 5 will start around 7 p.m. We'll have a short intermission in between, so you'll be able to grab snacks down the hall. So please be sure to tweet about this event and using the hashtag MSCS Forum 24. To our live stream participants, we're counting on your fingers, so let's all tweet. Happy tweeting, MSCS Forum 24. And be sure to stop by the registration table, for a voter in-depth guide. And so tonight, our moderators for panel 1 will be Laura Testino, who is a reporter at Chalkbeat Tennessee, and I'll give it up to Zahara Altareb. Zahara is a Yemeni American rising junior at White Station High School and the co-chair of MICAH's Youth Council. Yay, yes, please give it up for our youth moderators. And so that is all I have. And it's been a pleasure to be your moderator for panel 1. I'm going to turn it over to Laura. You guys take it away.
Thank you very much, Vanita. Thank you again to all of you who are here. I am really excited to have so many people show up on a rainy Memphis Monday. Very exciting. We have so many important topics to cover, so many critical things to discuss. My name is Laura Testino. I cover Memphis-Shelby County Schools for Chalkbeat Tennessee. We're going to go ahead and thank also the amazing partners and event sponsors that are helping us put on this event today. That's the Memphis Education Fund, as well as the Urban Child Institute. And I'm going to go ahead and let my co-moderator, Zahara, introduce herself.
Hey, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Like Vanita said, I'm Yemeni American, a rising junior at White Station, and the co-chair of the MICAH Youth Council. Thank you everyone for being here, and I'm glad to be today's moderator.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and get you guys introduced to the candidates that we have up here. To my left, we have all of the candidates running for District 4, or most of the candidates running for District 4. First, we have Mr. James Q. Bacchus, a retired educator whose 45-year career included being a teacher, assistant principal, principal, assistant superintendent, and superintendent. Mr. Bacchus, if you could give a little wave to let everyone know who you are. Additional waves when I say your name, just in case the community doesn't already know you. Eric Harris is a graduate of Memphis City Schools, a husband, father, educator, and founder of Just Ran, a nonprofit early childhood education program. Tamarques Porter is a native Memphian, IT professional and cybersecurity specialist, as well as a former MSCS teacher's assistant and a graduate of Melrose High School. And Anecia Washington is a 10-year Memphis resident with more than 20 years of experience in education. Also running in District 4 is Mr. Alvin Crook, who was unable to attend this evening's forum due to a schedule conflict. Among candidates for District 7, incumbent board member Frank W. Johnson is a native of South Memphis and a former executive director of Depot Communities United and past president of the Althea Ball Community Association. Chavez G. Donelson is a 10-year community leader and change maker in Althea Ball. We've got everybody just about in order over here. Danielle Huggins is an educator and community advocate with roots in the Althea Ball neighborhood community. Ms. Towanna C. Murphy is a longtime educator, the founder of Project Let's Read, a summer reading camp, and the former Policy Council president for the Shelby County and Porter Leith. And Mr. Jason Sharif, a Memphis native and product of Memphis City Schools, who is the founder and executive director of Respect the Haven CDC Community Development Corporation. To learn more about our candidates, as Vanita mentioned, we have the in-depth candidate bios and a questionnaire available in Chalkbeat's voter guide, which you can access online. There are 9 other questions that the candidates answered in there, and so you can access that information to go as a complement to the questions that we'll get into this evening. Again, if we haven't reminded you enough, there's food out there. Please enjoy it. Please keep it in the hallway just to keep this space clean. And if you are someone who needed a childcare and haven't found the childcare yet, that is also available out in the hall. Now, ground rules for the forum, everyone. Please address the questions that we ask in your responses and be respectful of your fellow candidates. We have limited time together this evening, so we're going to ask you to keep your responses to less than 90 seconds. You're allowed to finish your sentence at time, but after that, we'll ask you to, we'll leaven you, cut you off, is what I have written here, going off script just a bit, so that we can ensure to get all candidates an equitable amount of time. You'll find our timekeeper right here up to the front. Give a little wave if you don't mind, Emily. And so this is where you'll find time. For our audience, we'll have a brief amount of time at the end for your questions. You can submit a question by text and follow the instructions to do so in the flyer at the registration table. You can also grab those instructions from an usher, and there is a question station right down there to my right, on your left, where you can also write down your questions. So I think with that, we should be ready to get to these questions. So first, candidates, identify the single greatest issue Memphis-Shelby County Schools faces today and explain the steps you take as a board member to address it. I'll start with the candidate on my right.
Well, thank you so much. The problem that I see that hits us at home is the problem of child and family homelessness. We have an epidemic that's coalescing. I uncovered this problem when I was visiting American Way Middle and Getwell Middle. And both principals told me that they have so many students that are facing homelessness that they pull the buses up to the 2 hourly rate motels around the schools and allow the school bus to pick their students up from there and take them to the schools. It's out of control. It's out of control. It's a big problem. We need to take care of it. We need to work, as far as we're concerned, we need to work through our seed office, because they work a lot with unhoused children. And we have to do something about it. We have to do something.
Thank you. Sure. Identify the single greatest issue Memphis-Shelby County Schools faces today and explain the steps you'd take as a board member to address it.
Well, a major step that I would take is the children have to compete on a global level, plus, local level. And, we're underachieving. So with the digital delta coming in, we have Elon Musk bringing the business in. Everything is, one would say, kind of digital driven. So it's not an analog world. Everything is moving digital and it's very fast, and the technology is vast. So we must get the children up to speed to be able to compete. And you want to reinvigorate vocational training, like in one of my 7 solutions. And you're going to always need vocational training because everyone is not made for college. You got to have these vocations, and then you got to carry on because it's a very fast world.
Thank you very much.
All right.
We've done a bit of introduction actually at the beginning. We're going to keep the questions to the script today just because we have so many candidates up here. I really appreciate you attending.
Okay. All right.
Are you having trouble hearing a bit back there?
All right, good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Thank you.
All right, my name is Jason Sharif. I think the biggest problem facing, or the biggest challenge facing Memphis-Shelby County Schools right now, it starts at the top, and it starts with our leadership, and it starts with the board, and how, talking to people in the community, they feel like the board is disconnected from the community, and they have lost public trust and confidence in the board. So I think the biggest issue first is that we as a board, we have to take accountability as board members, as colleagues. We have to take accountability and make sure that we're holding our superintendent accountable, and we're going to have to earn back the public trust and confidence. That's the first thing. Get confidence back in the community that we can make sound decisions and we can do our job as a board. After that, I think the greatest challenge right now is our early literacy. Right now, 76% of our third graders are not reading on grade level. 70% of the current prison population is not reading past the 4th grade. So if we do not improve our early literacy, then all we're going to do is continue the school-to-prison pipeline. So as a school board member, I will work to continue to foster community partnerships like Mid-South Literacy, Peer Power, continue to increase our literacy tutors, summer reading programs, and community partnerships so we can improve our early literacy and get our children reading on grade level and prepared for the future.
Thanks very much.
All right, my name is Danielle Huggins. Let me stand up for you so you can see me. All right. Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Absolutely. Please identify the single greatest issue Memphis-Shelby County Schools faces today and explain the steps you'd take as a board member to address it.
All right, so Jason, thank you for taking my answer. But one of the challenges in which we are most definitely facing is early childhood literacy. And one of the ways and challenges that I most definitely will implement partnership, like Jason said earlier, with Memphis Literacy to make sure that our children are reading on grade level. We have the 3rd and 4th grade retention. And so therefore, being an educator, I'm in the classroom, I'm teaching students every single day, and I have students who cannot read. So one of the challenges in which we are facing is the foundational skills in which our students are having issues with. So therefore, integrating partnerships with local community advocates, and also, of course, continuing building partnerships with literacy throughout Memphis-Shelby County Schools.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Towanna Murphy, and I decided to go a different route with this because we have to go to the root of the problem, and the root of the problem is mental illness. We don't know what's going on in the home prior to our kids getting to school, so we have to go back and reevaluate what's going on in the home. We all know that our children cannot read. I have a summer reading camp, so I deal with it on an everyday basis, but what happens is there's something happening before they get there to the classroom, before they meet their teachers. I'm talking from experience because I have a 9-year-old and he doesn't have any issues, but he had issues at school, and I was trying to figure out why he was fighting, why he was hitting, why he was cussing. It was because he is suffering from depression from losing my mom. So that affected his classroom, that affected his work, that affected how the teachers responded to him and how he responded to the teachers when doing his homework. And so the steps that we need to take is, number one, find out what the root problem is. Number two, work with that root problem, and then assess the problem from there, and then keep moving. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Mr. Bacchus.
James Bacchus. One of the key factors is academic performance. If we have academic performance, everything else aligns that leads to success. What we need to do is start first with our 3 to 4th grade students to be more intentional about proficiency in those 3 areas. And a part of that is you have to work with parents. You have to be intentional about parents. Our students learn the importance of education in the early ages. So if a child does not value education at an early age, he or she would not value it as they move forward. So it's a 3-pronged piece. First, the district, need to be intentional about students as age 3 to 4th grade. They need to be intentional about working with parents, especially those parents that have identified they need support around parenting, and they need support around making sure their students, children are attending school, because they learn the attendance habits early grades. And when they get to high school and middle school, they start making their own decisions because of the previous patterns parents allowed them to do at an early age. All the percentages align. Where you have successful parents, you have successful schools. That's all over the country. So we need to be more intentional. Instead of trying to eat the whole elephant at one time, identify the space, especially in early grades, how we can work. As a former superintendent,
Thanks very much, Mr. Bacchus.
Good evening. My name is Anecia Washington, and I would like to say that the single most challenging issue that Shelby County or Memphis-Shelby County School faces is its perspective on literacy education. And by that I mean that I want you to know that my background is in literacy instruction, and I am considered a certified academic language therapist. I am a dyslexia therapist. I am also a classroom educator certified under Orton Gillingham Academy, okay? What I do want the people to know is that literacy should be viewed as a continuum, okay? There is not one approach that is going to benefit every child within this district. And what we have to do is find the pathways to get the teachers into the opportunity to teach children where they are. There is no one-size-fits-most or fits-all approach when it comes to literacy. It could be a phonemic awareness issue. It could be an issue with comprehension. It could be vocabulary. It could be any of those factors or all of those factors. And we need to give the teachers the tools to be able to meet every single child where they are. Whether it's reading, it's writing, or it's arithmetic. We need to allow the teachers the training and support that they need to get it done and stop passing the blame and the buck around the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Eric Harris. One issue, but it's actually a two-sided coin. On one side is transparency. There's a lot of issues within the school district. I mean, you have a literacy issue where we start kids too late to school. You have a chronic absenteeism issue where kids don't go to school. You have a training issue where you have a lot of teachers who feel as though they're not prepared when they go to work every single day. And I do believe that our board and our superintendent want to address these things, and they have plans, but because there is a lack of transparency, no one knows if they are being addressed. And a lot of the media that is going on right now only backs that up as if it's not happening. As a person who sits at home, reads the newspaper, watches television every day, it just does not feel that our current board and our superintendent, whenever there's work to be done, are putting their hands together and saying 1, 2, 3 team before they go out and do the work. It just does not. So we've got to have better transparency. And I think if we are more transparent, then we can address the other side of that coin, which is the engagement. We've got to have a situation where communities are caring about our schools and our schools are caring about our communities, to where everyone is willing to roll their sleeves up and do whatever has to be done to make sure our children are getting the resources and the support that they absolutely need. We cannot do this work alone. The school system has lots of resources they do, but we've got to get our community more so involved because once we're engaged, once the community is engaged, you'll have teachers who feel appreciated and they're coming to work every day. You'll have parents who are feeling accountable because they know that they have to answer to someone, and most of all,
Thanks very
you'll
much.
have students who feel supported. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Tamarques Porter, District 4. We all can agree that literacy is one of the major factors that the district is facing, but one thing that has not been said is teacher recruitment and teacher retainment. I have a 7th grader who has not had a permanent math and science teacher in school all year. That's an issue that we need to address. And so, but it starts with culture and climate. So once we can change the culture and the climate at the top and have a bottom-up approach to, hey, let's talk to the teachers and see what the real issues are. How can we address them? And so once we actually talk to the people that's actually boots on the ground, that goes to work every day, we can actually change this thing from the bottom to the top. Thank you.
Thanks.
Describe your plans for directing the district to address its teacher shortage and how you would measure efforts to recruit and retain high-quality staff. I'll start with the candidate on my left.
District has to be more intentional with working with their college partners in recruiting teachers starting early, even at the enrollment into the educational program. The district needs to play a major role in that, not waiting till they graduate from college looking for a job, but to be a part of their journey all the way through the educational program where they would understand and will be looking forward for the opportunity to work here in Memphis-Shelby County Schools. Also, it needs to be more intentional about communicating and involving principals in the recruiting process where they're able to talk directly to a possible principal they'll be working from to get a real feel of what will happen once they get into the school setting. And 2, create a touring process where they'll be able to go in and out of the schools and not only hear what others say about the school, but have some idea themselves based on their own personal experience of what they have heard about the school. And then look for teachers that have the passion, that really wants to teach, and not people just looking for a job. Many times we experience that where they're looking for a job, but not really having the passion and what it takes to really teach. I know in Nehemiah chapter 4, it talks about willing to dig down in the rubble. We need teachers like that.
Thank you.
In the recruitment and retention process, I think Shelby County Schools or Memphis-Shelby County Schools needs to continue working on the nepotism and the cronyism that is really deeply rooted into the district. I personally was affected 10 years ago by the merger. I came here down from Milwaukee and I took a $35,000 pay cut. And I still stayed and I stood because I believe in this community. So we're on the path. And those of us who are seeing the works that the board is doing and the new superintendent are doing, we are engaged in correcting the pay scale so that they can be paid for all of our advanced degrees to start getting that payment back for the years that we have put in beyond just the 10 years that they would allow, would attract seasoned teachers, because that's what you're looking for right now in this crisis, are seasoned teachers, okay, to offset the crisis that the district is in regards to instruction. And again, to retain is to provide them with adequate training and support. So we teach and we touch. We do what we have to do to keep them supported and not feeling bullied and threatened. They'll stay.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Describe your plan.
Let's try one more time. Make sure your mic is on. Yep, you're great. Okay.
Yeah. Describe your plans for directing the district to address its teacher shortage and how you would measure efforts to recruit and retain high-quality staff.
Thank you. I think the biggest thing is we've got to make sure our teachers feel supported. You can't have a teacher in a situation where there's a curriculum that needs to be taught and they're being told how to teach it, but they're not given the resources that they need to do the job that they want to do. We've got to drop that perception that teachers don't want to come to work every day, because they do. They want every single student to survive, but we put them in a situation where it's very hard for them to get that job done. We've got to absolutely stop that. And budget, as a board member, is very important for us to make sure that the budget reflects that. Like right now, as mentioned, there's nice raises for the teachers that are coming up, which is absolutely awesome. I think there's more teaching positions which are in the budget, but there are some cuts when it comes to instruction, supplies, materials, and also the teachers' aides in this projected budget. So those are things that will make teachers not feel supported. We've got to look at it holistically and make sure that that's happening. Because if teachers are feeling supported, hey, they're the best recruiters that we can have. They are the ones, they talk to each other. They're on social media with one another. If they are telling each other that, hey, you know what, Memphis-Shelby County Schools is the way to go, and that's the place we need to be, that will go a long way when it comes to recruiting more teachers. So let's start in the house first, and then we can work our way out.
So that's a great question. So I do applaud the current school board for allowing $25 million to go into the budget for teacher pay and teacher raises, because like my other colleague said, that teacher pay is important. And so teachers should not have to second guess their career paths when they go to school, when they come to work. So if we continue to increase the teacher pay and make teachers feel like they're supported, offer not necessarily their pay, but offer some social and mental support for the teachers as well. We often talk about with the children about, hey, offer some financial literacy classes, offer some health and wellness classes for the teachers. And so I have to make them feel supported and have to make them feel loved, that they are actually excited to come to work and do their job.
Thank you. All right, District 7.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. Describe your plans for directing the district to address its teacher shortage and how you would measure efforts to recruit and retain high-quality staff.
All right, well, one of the things that I would do...
Let's make sure your mic's on.
Excuse me.
There we go.
Okay. One of the things that I would do as far as teacher recruitment is I would actually allow different groups to, provide and renovate houses for them. I do think that teachers are necessary. They are the staple for our students. And if they don't feel at home, if they don't feel comfortable, then what are you doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing?
Thank you. Sure, do you mind repeating it, Zara?
Yeah. Describe your plans for directing the district to address its teacher shortage and how you would measure efforts to recruit and retain high-quality staff.
Well, to address the teacher shortage, you must get the teachers in a comfortable position to be able to teach. You want to kind of talk to them firsthand to see like what resources need to be provided for them. Once they have a conducive learning environment, you'll get better teachers. And it's all about resources and giving them the adequate resources to be able to deal with the children. So once they get comfortable, you get better teaching. It's just quality.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason Sharif, again. Definitely getting better teachers and recruiting better teachers. Definitely increase the pay, definitely pay them with their work. But also improve the culture and the climate, because a lot of our teachers, they feel overworked. And as a former teacher myself, I was in the classroom, I was working from 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening, because I was also a coach. Then I was going home, doing lesson plans, calling parents, grading papers. And so the teachers are in a lot of stress, and it feel like, the dignity and the honor of a teacher is no longer a respectful profession. We no longer respect or treat our teachers with respect. One of the biggest things they're dealing with, of course, you got to pay for your own materials, lack of resources, lack of staff support or teacher assistance to support those teachers that have classrooms with 30 or more students, the lack of discipline. and how they their hands are handcuffed and they can't control the lack of discipline in the classroom. That's also impacts their ability to teach. So not only increasing pay, but increasing the culture and the climate that our teachers work in, and bringing back honor and respect and dignity, and treating them with the respect that they deserve.
So as a former educator, I would most definitely say competitive salary is an all-time must to regain and retain educators. Also, social emotional health, mental health is real when it comes down to an educator, because like Jason just mentioned, coming home doing lesson plans, dealing and calling parents, children all day, behavior issues. Also, a stipend for child care. A lot of our educators have children. We need to provide a stipend for child care as well. Also, allocate resources back into the classroom. I understand, yes, we have iPads. I understand we have our smart boards, but also can I receive an assistant to assist with the classroom, because some of the groups in the classroom, we need small groups, because we do have those behavior problems. We do have students who have their own individual educational plan that need some additional assistance. So therefore, I would highly recommend competitive salary, allocating resources back into the classroom, and also providing assistance in the classroom as well to make sure we are providing resources for our children, because that's who we're here for our children. So in order to regain those educators, we most definitely need to pay them, provide stipends for child care, and making sure that we're providing them inside of the classroom. Thank you.
Well, Danielle already touched on some of the things that I was going to say, which is the first thing is competitive pay. And when you have competitive pay, that means that we'll have a lot of teachers that are applying for those jobs. We have a problem when we have 20 children in a classroom and only one teacher. So we have 20 children in a classroom and we only have one teacher. That means we need an assistant that opens the load, that helps her carry the load of teaching these kids. And we also need to bring in more textbooks so that our kids can learn. We talked about nepotism and communism, because everybody up here has touched on some of the things that I was talking about earlier when it comes to educating our children. We have to be more lenient to our teachers, because some of us as parents, we do give our teachers a hard time. We have to understand where they're coming from, because they're dealing with all of these different personalities in this classroom. So we have to be able to assess those children. It goes all the way back to what I said, mental health, because something is happening prior to them walking in the classroom, and we don't know what the teachers are going through prior to them coming to the classroom to teach our children. So we have to be aware of that. We have to pay attention to what's going on in our surroundings, and having our teachers get competitive pay to make sure that they are taken care of. And health care benefits, make sure that benefits are good benefits where they can go and get the classes, because classes are needed. In order to be a good teacher, you have to take the classes and learn how to deal with the different situations that happen within our children's lives. So they need to go back and get those extra training classes for mental health, or kids that's having the behavior issues, because if they are transparent and that comes in with the program, then our teachers will have an easier time teaching our children.
Thank you. Excellent. Our next question will be a hand-raised question for everyone all at once. Last week, the current Memphis School Board criticized Superintendent Marie Fagans for her communication of proposed job cuts at the district in an 8-1 vote ordering her to press pause. Candidates, raise your hand if you would have voted yes on this resolution. Some candidates are asking me to repeat it, so we're going to do that hand raise one more time. Last week, the current Memphis School Board criticized Superintendent Marie Fagans for her communication of proposed job cuts at the district in an 8-1 vote ordering her to press pause. Candidates, raise your hand if you would have voted yes on this resolution. Okay. Yes. Raise your hand yes if you would have voted yes on the resolution to pause the job cuts. All right. Thank you. Right, let's get hands all the way up if you raised them. Yep, all at once. Thank you. We will move to the next question, which is related. This will be a 90-second answer. How will you oversee the district's budget from your board seat? Explain what you'd expect to deliberate publicly, how you'd make decisions, how you'd bring the community along, and when in the process. I'll start on my right.
Say that again.
Sure. How will you oversee the district's budget from your board seat? Explain what you'd expect to deliberate publicly, how you'd make decisions, how you'd bring the community along, and when.
Well, I would make decisions very responsibly. It's really funny when you're up there dealing with that budget because it's tricky, but it's not undoable. So I would take my time, pretty much with all of it. Let me see. Let me see. I don't even know. But, you know, I would take my time and do those decisions responsibly. So.
Thank you. Yes, you can pass it to your right.
Would you repeat the question?
Sure. How would you oversee the district's budget from your board seat? Explain what you'd expect to deliberate publicly, how you'd make decisions, how you'd bring the community along, and when.
Well, the power is within the people. You would have to get down and go to the neighborhoods or what districts you represent, the schools, and get the word from the people. You get that all, you get them all, and kind of put them on the desk, and you kind of go from priority to, you know, prioritize what's the best solution to what problem we're doing as far as like the people. The power is within the people, and without the people, you have no power.
Thank you.
As a board member, it would be, of course, it's the superintendent working with her administration who handle the day-to-day operations of the school system. She would bring the budget to the board, explaining her goals, the priorities that her administration has set forth. As a board member, I would look at the budget line by line, make sure that any decision that I make sure that the budget, it goes back and make sure that it's whatever decision we make as budget-wise, that it affects student achievement. And that as long as, make sure that the budget has specific goals, time-specific action plans, and just make sure that whatever we're deciding money-wise, as long as it's tied into academic achievement and specific benchmarks and goals and improvements. And that's how, as a board member, I would decide, about the budget. Just making sure, reading it line by line, all our goals, all our aspirations, and just making sure that the budget is pointed back to our main goal, and that is improving student achievement.
Can you please repeat the question?
Sure. How will you oversee the district's budget from your board seat? Explain what you'd expect to deliberate publicly, how you'd make decisions, how you'd bring the community along, and when.
So when it comes down to the budget as a board member, I will most, of course, work alongside and support the superintendent. Also, we have to do an audit as well. That's the number one thing, audit the budget. And like Jason Sharif said, go line by line. Let's take a look at the academics. Let's take a look at the infrastructure. And far as the community goes, that's where we go into, of course, holding forums, a town hall, and also being very transparent, either in a newsletter to the community to inform them about the budget and inform them what's going on with it.
Thank you.
Well, first I would review the existing budget. After I review the existing budget, then I would go back and make sure it's a realistic goal that we're setting for this budget. And then I'll update the old budget and then kind of make it work together for what we have for the old budget and what we have for the new budget, and make sure that the budgets are lining up with each other. Once I've done that, then I'll go back and track the process of the budget and make sure that things are going as planned when you have a budget. So when you have a budget, you have to look at the existing budget, After you looked at that budget, then you have to see what you can do to moderate the budget and then move from there. With the community being involved, the community needs to be aware of what's going on in the school district. So what I would do is have town hall meetings and meet with my constituents and let them know that this is the plan, this is the budget, this is the existing budget, this is the new budget, and then I'm going to track the process from there so we can move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Bacchus? Oh, if that's all right with everyone, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I like the concept of community-based budgeting. So not only that our schools are the pillars of our community, so we have to have the community involved in the budget. So I will hold town hall meetings, I will have actual stakeholder meetings, and I will also invite teachers to these meetings and have meetings inside the school system to ask the teachers, what do you all want to see within the budget? What do y'all want to see change in the budget? Yes, there will be some hard decisions made within it, but we also have to look at line by line and see what works and what doesn't work. But as long as we keeping student success ahead and keeping that as our North Star, the student achievement, student success, then normally, actually, naturally, the budget will flow in the way it needs to flow.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can say that in this budget process, one thing that we need to make sure that we continually do is sort of keep that campaign mentality. I know everybody on this stage has been out meeting people, going to a lot of different meetings, and you've met those that you've never had a conversation with before. During things like budgeting, it needs to be the same way. Go to those HOA meetings. Let them know, hey, this is coming down the pike. I just want to get some feedback from you. Go to those community centers. Have those same conversations with people that we're having now during the campaign. Don't just have town hall meetings or groups, because sometimes those work, sometimes those don't, and people don't feel as obligated. We need to go to them. And make sure that we are asking those questions that need to be asked. Because if you do that, you get the type of engagement that you need on the budget. And also, too, when it comes to the budget, we need to make sure we have some performance measures in there. If there's a new program or if there's places where we're spending money, every single quarter we need to review those and make sure that they are being successful and that they're worth the money, because if not, guess what? When the new budget comes around, we can make some good informed decisions and get rid of a lot of that fluff and use that money in areas that are actually working. Thank you.
Thank you.
As it pertains to budgeting, I would like a twofold process going forward. I would first of all like a forensic accounting done with the budget for years prior, so we can go back and see what happened to that money and recover that which belongs to the children of this community, and then move forward going line by line to make sure that everything that we say we stand for can be accounted for based on what we say our goals are for our community and our children. And that is done in board retreats, that is done in committee meetings on the board, and that is something that should be brought along with the parents. I love the process now. I get my text messages like everyone else. They do ask us our opinions about the budget. They do inquire from us what we need. They send emails, they send texts. Can we go further to continue the campaign mentality? Yes, we can, and yes, we should. But I think we are on the road to constantly making sure our budget is the best budget, and the best budget is a balanced budget.
Thank you.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. How will you oversee the district's budget from your board seat? Explain what you'd expect to deliberate publicly, how you'd make decisions, how you'd bring the community along, and when.
It appears that the budget has been adopted based on that question. And as a board, we have one employee, and that's the superintendent. And the superintendent would bring us a budget that would have goals to measure and also a timeline to meet those goals. We would work with the superintendent in monitoring the timelines that he or she has set and to ensure that we are reaching those goals. That timeline within that budget should be based on that year and also projected no more than 3 to 5 years to reach the outcomes that we're seeking for the betterment of our children. And the goals should be centered around the success of our children, whether it be, if it's going to be building infrastructure as well, is just important. I believe that every child should experience somewhere along their 12-year experience in a 21st century school, not 21st century materials, but a 21st century school where they're able to go into a new school and experience that somewhere between their pre-K to 12th grade experience. So accountability from the superintendent to the central office employees, to the principals, to the teachers, and to the board should be in line based on those goals.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to check in just really quickly with my colleagues who are collecting our audience questions. Are we quite ready for those yet? Okay. We can continue 2 more? Okay. We're going to continue just a couple more of our prepared questions and then get those from you guys in the audience. Thank you for submitting them.
So this next question is another raise your hand question. Raise your hand if you support Tennessee's reading retention and intervention laws in their current form for 3rd and 4th graders.
Say that again.
Raise your hand if you support Tennessee's reading retention and intervention laws in their current form for 4th and 3rd graders.
No hand raise. Okay. Let's go into the follow-up, Zara. Thank you.
What would you petition lawmakers to keep and to change about the reading retention and intervention law to help improve student success? I'll start with the candidate on my left.
From my viewpoint, what they should have done, at least identified a cohort rather than starting it where the students was already in 1st or 2nd grade. If they identify the cohort and go from there, they're giving school systems an opportunity to prepare for that experience. As a former superintendent, I was in Mississippi before Mississippi started the 3rd grade gate. We were 2 years ahead of Mississippi because we knew that many of our states follow what's happening in Florida. So it had already happened in Florida, so we was 2 years ahead. And on our first experience, we had a 96% success rate of our students meeting that 3rd grade experience. Certainly, I think there should be some accountability at some point, some measuring point. But when things change, it should change with a cohort and not necessarily just anywhere along the line. To giving districts an opportunity to know what they're working toward and the students that they identified early in the process. One of the key successes that we had, that we started in our communities along with 3-year-olds, with parents, in our housing communities and in areas that we identified where most of our students came to us that were struggling. And we were very intentional about that, and that's how we were able to meet that outcome at that point.
Thank you.
While Tennessee legislation is well-meaning, I do feel like they have a ways to go in regards to their screening and such of children who are maybe dyslexic, who are on the autism spectrum, who have developmental delays, and any of things of that capacity. They have the potential to be literate, but to hold those children back from something that is of no control of them, of their own volition, is not fair. And I'm saying also that I feel like the people who are allowed to work with our children need to be the highest trained people working with the children. Oftentimes, the interventionists and such within schools are there maybe on a hookup. I don't know how to say that professionally, but they don't always have the training and know-how to be able to work with the different children who need that extra literacy support. Again, is it phonemic awareness? Is it comprehension? Is it symbol imagery? What is it? And until you get to the bottom line of what it is, especially for my children on the spectrum, if it's a verbalization, it's a vocabulary thing, you want to have that opportunity to have a screening and put those children where they need to be versus just saying you didn't pass this test and not have the story behind what's going on with that child.
Thank you.
I think the bottom line is our state legislators are not educators, and they need to get out of the education business. Point blank, period. I think what they can control And what they should do is address the 1,500-pound gorilla in the room, and let me give them some instructions, and hopefully some are here to listen to what I'm about to say. 37% of the children born here in Memphis are born in extreme poverty. 37%. By the time those children are 2 years old, they're 8 to 9 months behind their peers who did not grow up in poverty. By the time they hit kindergarten, they've been exposed to about 6 million less words than their peers who haven't. And guess what? In kindergarten, if they're not successful, all of the data shows you that they're probably not going to be successful by the 3rd grade. And if they don't have a successful 3rd grade year, guess what? They're probably not going to successfully graduate high school and be ready for college and career readiness. So the state legislature, yes, they can help us address poverty. Come up with systems, come up with interventions that will actually help people, give them a better quality of life. The Shelby County right now ranks 93 out of 95 counties out of family well-being. 93 out of 95. Address that, and I promise you, all those other problems go away. Do what it is that you need to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
So although I do agree that poverty is the issue that we need to address, but it's not an excuse for children can't learn how to read. We got to stop giving teachers, parents, and students excuses for them not performing in the classroom. It doesn't matter if you have one parent in the household or 2 parents in the household. Our parents and our grandparents, they taught themselves how to read back when they didn't have any books. So although I do agree that the legislature can help us with the poverty issue, but we have to get the power back to the teachers. Let them teach in the way they was going to school to teach. Teaching is an art, and so that has to be developed. So if a teacher can't bring that actual genius being inside of the children, if they can't galvanize their attention to allow them to teach, well then they may need to go get some more pedagogy in order to construct it. But teaching is an art. We have to give the teachers the power back to teach. We have to lessen the test, because it doesn't, if a child fails a reading or math portion of the test, it doesn't tell the whole picture of that child. So let's address the poverty issue, but also let's not give the legislature an excuse or say, hey, we created this prison in the pipeline because the children can't read. I never said children can't learn how to read. I said they can read if you give them the tools and give the teachers the resources in order to teach them how to read.
Thank you. And District 7, do you guys need a repeat of the question?
Yes.
What would you petition lawmakers to keep and to change about the reading retention and intervention law to help improve student success?
Well, like my colleagues down there, I don't believe that that these people in the state legislature needs to be involved in the learning experience. And I honestly believe that. Now, let me I misintroduced myself, because I taught for 5 years between LaRose and Levi. And I will tell you, those children and our children have issues that they do not get a chance to deal with. But when you appear to wanting to get behind that, they love you like you have never known love before. But I contend these people in the state legislature do not need to be involved in the education process. We and our teachers know what they're doing. They know what to do, and they know how to do it. Let them do what they can do.
Thank you.
What would you petition lawmakers to keep and to change about the reading retention and intervention law to help improve student success?
Well, first of all, we must go back adopting the nuclear family concept, which, like you said, it's no excuse not to read, but like a young lady down there said, you don't want to take a one-size-fits-all approach. Now, when you get, like the guy down there said, like maybe after kindergarten, 1st grade, you kind of stuck right here. You got to incorporate turnkey services at this point. Like some people learn different at different speeds. You can't speed them up. You know, you want to kind of tailor make it to kind of cater to them. And you want to, like I said earlier, you want to incorporate, at this age would be a good age to incorporate vocational training, because everything is going digital. And you want to have your children competing at a global level, not just local. Local. You want, it's a big world.
Thank you.
I would petition to the lawmakers not let one test decide whether our child passed to the next grade, or let one test measure our children learning, because you have kids that they just don't perform well on tests, and you have to take in the community factors. 60% of the factors that affect a child's attendance, behavior, and course performance happens outside of the classroom. So how can a child focus on the test if he's traumatized from what's going on in the community? He's going to a funeral every weekend, or his mother is fighting with her boyfriend, or that child is hungry. So we got to look at that is not factored into why these children are not performing well on tests. So I will petition to the lawmakers not to let one test determine our child's learning, or whether a child has learned for the school year or should pass to the next grade. I think there should be alternative measures to measure student effectiveness besides just one test.
Thank you.
I will most definitely say take back local control of our education system here at Memphis-Shelby County Schools. Also, I will most definitely say when it comes down to the intervention, in the 3rd and 4th grade intervention, we need to have foundational skills coaches inside of the classrooms. That way we are preparing our students and not just giving them worksheets or giving them just tests on an iPad to say, hey, we're going to see, can this prove if you can read or not? If we can take back local control back inside of our school district, and also prepare them with the coach to give their teacher some assistance in intervention, we're going to keep state out of our district.
Thank you.
I agree with keeping the state out of our district, but I'm going to have to agree to disagree with something one of the opponents said down there. I came from poverty. My mother was a single mother. We stayed in the ghetto with 7 kids. And some days we didn't have a chance to eat. But my mom taught us how to read. She taught us how to write. And we took that and we ran with it. So when I went to school, I was able to read and I was able to write. Just because they're living in poverty don't mean that they can't learn to read and write, because I did. And I teach a summer reading camp, and I teach from scratch. Everything I do is from scratch. They can't bring any materials into my class because I need them to learn. A child can't learn with a device in their hand. They cannot learn if they're not paying attention. They cannot learn if our teachers are not focused. They have to be able to decipher what's good and what's not with our children. And so keeping the state out of our business, that is one of my main objectives right there, is to keep them out of our business. But our teachers have to get back to teaching. Teach from the ground up, the way we were taught, the way our mothers taught us, the way our teachers taught us. If we get back to the basics, then our children will learn. I know firsthand that they will. All of my children have passed their TCAPs that took my summer camp. So it is effective. We just have to do it.
Thank you. All right. Everyone, we are going to go into some audience questions, staying aware of the time that we've got and knowing that we've got another panel coming. We're going to shorten response time in half. So instead of 90 seconds, you'll have 45 seconds to answer these questions. Emily in front of us will still be keeping time, but just really, think about that this time around. The first question from our audience: many buildings have deferred maintenance. What changes would you make or support to ensure our students have safe buildings? I'll start with Mr. Johnson.
Okay. Oh, these buildings. I live near Hamilton High School. I would have went to Hamilton, but I was bused to Overton through desegregation. But I always loved Hamilton. Hamilton can absolutely be fitted into one building. And that's the way I would change it. I would change it because these school systems we need to be creative. We got to be creative with them. But some of these schools it can be two schools in one. Just for the time being while we work out the necessary changes. But I think that we could do that. We could pretty much do that.
Thank you. Sure. Many buildings have deferred maintenance. What changes would you make or support to ensure our students have safe buildings?
Well, what I'm seeing now, with everything going, technical, outdated infrastructure will kind of deter the children from learning. So if you got a school like East that has STEM programs and Hamilton has no vocational program, which we should reincorporate, it's going to be a deterrent. Children are not going to learn. They're not going to be engaged. So I would just use Hamilton for example, because I like Hamilton. You would come with like smart boards, like Ms. Huggins said, and it will make the children get back engaged. They'll want to come to school, want to socialize and fraternize with people and revitalize the area. Then it just kind of catapults from there. Okay.
Thanks very much.
I think definitely, as a board, we have to find money in the budget and to improve our infrastructure. I think, if you talk to any board member in the district, their schools, they have schools in their district that has deferred maintenance. I think we got to prioritize those schools, those buildings that need it the most, that pose an immediate risk to the students. We definitely have to prioritize those first. We don't want another Cummings Street where, the roof is falling in on our students. And again, you have buildings that are over 60 years old. And, we might gonna have to make the tough decision to close or to consolidate, some buildings. But there's just gonna be some tough decisions we're gonna have to make.
Can you repeat the question for me?
Sure. Many buildings have deferred maintenance. What changes would you make or support to ensure our students have safe buildings?
All right, so the number one thing, like Mr. Sharif said, is look at the budget. Hire more maintenance inside of our school buildings to make sure that, of course, they're up to par when it comes down to the havoc, because that was one of the issues that my school was facing this year. And making sure that we're aligning what needs to happen when it comes to the infrastructure. Making sure we have the money to make sure the infrastructure of the schools are handled appropriately.
Thank you.
I would say prior to looking at the budget, there is money available. We have money for everything else. We should have money to repair these schools and fix the infrastructure of the schools. We have schools right now that do not have air conditioning, and they still don't have air conditioning, and those need to be repaired. Although we know that the ticket has been in and has been made, but it has not been fixed. And all the schools that we have abandoned, we can go back and fix those schools and use those for trade schools that we can use. Those schools just sitting there, they're just deteriorating. We can use those for something else. We can use that money for the maintenance of the old schools that's just sitting there and the ones that is in working condition. We take that money and we fix the infrastructures. We got roofs falling, we got no central air, we got the towers coming up. We can use that money to fix the schools.
Thank you. Mr. Bacchus.
Certainly. There's a facility study that the board has engaged in, and I think the results will come back maybe early fall. As a board member, we should take very close look at the recommendations around what schools should be closed, what schools should have alternative use, and look at that and make serious decisions about that. We're going to have really make sure that we take politics and individual communities and things of that nature out of the decision making and make decisions what's best for the school district and how we serve our children.
Thank you.
In regards to infrastructure, I agree with my colleague here that we should look at the report and the recommendations. We could also listen to the teachers and the staff working in the buildings. That would save us some money because many are working in mold infested and lead-based environments. And those children and staff that are working in those schools that have lead and mold should be our highest priority, because those have long-term neurological effects on the staff as well as the children. And no one should be forced to have to deal with something that is neurologically changing the mapping of their mind and how they function for life because they're trying to go and learn. That is a root cause and that is an issue, and that should be addressed with the highest priority.
Thank you so much.
I know we do have some of the oldest buildings of any school district that you can imagine. I know the average age is about 60 years old, and the board and the superintendent are doing the right work by trying to find out just how bad the school buildings are. The teachers, the students, everyone can tell you if the roof is leaking. They can all tell you if the windows don't quite keep the cold out in the winter. But there's a lot of problems that can't be seen. Like, hey, the wiring in this building is so old that we really can't get this HVAC system hooked up the way we need to, or we can't put the fire system in the way that we need to, or your lights flicker because of things within the building. Things like mold that are mentioned at my old high school. At East, years and years ago, there was a mold issue that no one knew about. So when this report comes out, the thing that we've got to do is, going back to what I said earlier, you've got to be transparent and make sure the community knows all the problems, and they can help make that decision on what needs to be done.
Thank you.
Yes, I think the district is in around $200 million worth of deferred maintenance. So we will have to continue our lobby, our county commissions, and we also have to get the city council involved with actually helping with some of these costs to help, bring our school infrastructure up to date as well. And so once we get the money, we have to bring the schools up to speed. Let's have more technology in the schools. When I'm walking through the neighborhoods, the teacher telling me, students are telling me, Mr. Porter, our schools are not safe. So we don't feel safe coming to the schools. So once we get the money to do the deferred maintenance, let's upgrade our schools. Let's put more energy efficient things into the school. Let's put actually working computers in the school, or actually let's put the money in the budget to bring books back into the school. So just dealing with the whole infrastructure thing, yes, so we got to continue to lobby our county commissioners for the money so we can continue to make improvements to our school district.
Thanks very much. Thank you, thank you. Audience members, you had some other additional really great questions. Zara, I want to thank you so much for being such a great student co-moderator. Can you guys give it up for our candidates and for Zara? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura, as well. Okay, so thank you so much, candidates. I'm going to ask you all to step off. Our next round of candidates, please grab a seat. We're going to go straight into our second panel. So no intermission,
Great
though
job.
we do have the conversation streaming in the room with food and drinks. So please go grab some refreshments. You can stay attuned to what the candidates are saying. So, hey, I'm going to ask everyone, if you want to chat, just go outside, grab some food, but we're going to go straight into the second panel. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Zara. All right, I'm going to introduce my friend Kalila, who is going to introduce our next panel. Thank you all so much as folks get settled.
Good job, good job. All right, please grab a seat. Have you seen our video yet? The video, the voter video we did. Oh, I haven't seen it. I thought you were about to say anything. I'm like, yeah, let you see it. It'll be over. I thought you were the one in the car. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know, right? I guess you real, right? That's your left? Yes, I'm sorry, I'm not left. Okay. We'll have one candidate from District 3 right here.
Can you go ahead and invite folks to take a seat and tell them we're about to get started?
All right, folks, we're about to get started. Would everyone please find their seats so we can begin panel 2? We are about to get started. Please find your seats so we can begin panel 2. Thank you. All right, welcome back to our Panel 2 School Board Candidates Forum. My name is Kalila Horton-Spencer, and I am the other co-chair of MICAH Education Equity Task Force. We are so happy to have you here with us. We welcome back Ms. Laura Tessanino, and I have the pleasure of welcoming a new co-moderator. Her name is Sanaya Presley, and she is a part of my nonprofit Choice Foundation. She's a choice girl, so we are so excited that she will be co-moderating the second panel for this evening. I want everybody to think about their voter plan, and I want you all to say with me, we will vote. We will vote. We will vote. We will vote. This school board forum is all about inclusivity. What that means is whether you're retired, if you homeschool your kid, if your kid goes to private school or charter school, but you live in districts 2, 3, 4, 5, or 7, we are asking that you use your voice, which is your vote, to come out so that we can make sure that we elect the absolute best representation for our students and our teachers. Laura, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kalila. Everyone, if you are just joining us for the first time, thank you for being here. Thanks for sticking around, those of you who have been here for the first panel. My name is Laura Testino. I cover Memphis-Shelby County Schools for Chalkbeat Tennessee, and we are getting ready to discuss these critical election issues with our candidates for Districts 2, all the way down on my right, 3, which is on the right and left of us, and District 5. We want to go ahead and thank our amazing partners here for helping us put on this event, and that is the Urban Child Institute and the Memphis Education Fund. And now I am very excited to introduce you to my co-host.
My name is...
Let's see. You have your mic switched on there? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Can we get a mic check up at the top? Let's see what number we've got on your mic. Does that say number 1? Can we get mic check for number 1? Hello? Thank you.
My name is Sanaya Presley, and I will be a freshman this upcoming school year at Houston High School while at Cordova Middle. I was on the girls' soccer team, and I was also a part of my school's student council. I have been recognized as an MCS tech expert, competed in the Memphis Black History Knowledge Bowl for 3 years, and I am a member of the Memphis Library Youth Action Council.
Thank you. Yes, thanks, Sanaya. So before we get to our questions, I'm going to make sure that everybody in the audience knows who is here. We're going to go ahead and start with District 2, and candidates, as I say your name, please give the audience a wave so they know who you are. And is the audience there in the back, can you guys hear me okay? Are we feeling good on? Great. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So in District 2, we have current incumbent board member Althea Greene, who is a retired educator, owner of Greene's Grill and 3 Generations Catering, and senior pastor of Real Life Ministries, Inc. We also have Ernest Gillespie III, a senior pastor of Pearly Gate Church, a retired Shelby County school employer, and former sheriff's deputy, as well as owner of a security service. We have Natalie McKinney, a mother of MSCS graduates who founded the education nonprofit Whole Child Strategies, after directing policy and legislative planning for both Shelby County and Memphis City schools. Now in District 3, current incumbent board member Stephanie Love, a parent and grandmother to students in public schools. Jesse Jeff has a background in education and law enforcement, holding degrees from Christian Brother University and Lemoyne Owen College. Ozell Pace Jr. has a background in education and law enforcement and identifies as a student, teacher, and parent advocate. Angela Rogers is a native Memphian and 35-year resident of District 3. Her work includes youth development and outreach and serving as the founder and executive director of A Mother's Heart. For District 5, current incumbent board member Mauricio Calvo is a father and the CEO of Latino Memphis, a nonprofit providing legal and social services. Sable Otey is a wife, mother, businesswoman, former educator, and community advocate. And Audrey Elion, a native Memphian and a product of Memphis City Schools with over 15 years of experience working for and with the school system. To learn more about our candidates, Chalkbeat has in-depth candidate bios and a questionnaire in our voter guide. The candidates answered 9 other questions there. You can pick up a flyer at the check-in table or from an usher to access that information. If you haven't found your way to refreshments already or to childcare, if you need to access that this evening, down the hallway to your right, and just ask that you keep the food out there to keep the sanctuary clean. Now we're going to go over some rules for the forum candidates. Please address the questions that we ask you and your responses, and be respectful of your fellow candidates. We've got limited time together, and so we're asking you to keep your responses to less than 90 seconds. You're allowed to finish your sentence at time, but after that, we'll lovingly cut you off so we can ensure all candidates get an equitable amount of time. We'll also ask a few questions where we'll request you to respond by raising or not raising your hand. From our audience, we'll have a brief time at the end for your questions. You can submit them by text, and instructions to do that are on the flyers available at the table, or you can grab one from an usher. We also have a question station over here to my right, on your left, and you can write down your questions there. Candidates up here, if you don't mind passing your mic all the way to the end, and then when we get to the end, passing it back. That way we'll alternate going right and left. So we will get started with the very first question of the evening. New high schools have been proposed in Fraser and Cordova, but the costs have risen beyond what funding may be available. Describe your approach to MSCS infrastructure planning and funding, both for new schools and existing deferred maintenance. I'll start with the candidate to my right. Let's see. There you go.
I am a candidate for District 3, 10 years strong. At first, I would identify the funding structures. Memphis and Shelby County Schools, 96% of our schools reside in Memphis. They don't pay what they weigh. The Shelby County Schools, we get a large percentage of our budget from the county commissioners and the General Assembly. I would collaborate with the Memphis Memphis public school system. I would collaborate with hold on. I would collaborate with the city council. I would collaborate with the funding bodies of the unincorporated areas of Memphis. I would collaborate with everybody.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Good evening. My name is Jesse Jeff, and I'm running for School Board District 3. We know that the main funding source for the LEA is the Shelby County Commission, the Shelby County government. That's where it comes from. Whenever money comes from the state to the county, it cannot go down. It can go up, but it can't go down. So funding for the school system would come from there and from the state. We know that they're building a new school in Fraser, and not only it's just basic box school. There are other things that need to be done, so we're going to have to go back to the county to request more funds to build other additions onto that school. As far as deferred maintenance is concerned, teachers, students, and parents should feel safe. Deferred maintenance should be a priority. you should not worry about a roof falling in on you, or in the summertime being hot, or in the wintertime being cold. So we've got to get the deferred maintenance under control, the HVAC systems, and make sure that we collaborate with the county commission to get the funds needed for the new school.
Thank you.
Althea Greene, District 2. Our funding bodies are the Shelby County government. And each year we go into budget season with deferred maintenance. Each year it's growing. If the average year of a school is 60 years old, imagine how old the schools are in Memphis. And what we have to realize is that the city collects city taxes from us, but they don't pay anything into our school system. It's going to take joint collaboration between city officials, county officials, but also other funding sources, Chamber of Commerce, building those relationships. Yes, our children deserve to sit in schools where they can look out the window. They deserve to be in schools that are mold-free. And so we know that we have work to do, but it requires funding. Each year we go into budget season and we ask for X number of dollars, and we come out with less than that. Our deferred maintenance list is growing, and yes, our students deserve better schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ernest Gillespie III. In listening to what has been presented about the infrastructure of our schools, yes, we know that our schools need some updating. The key thing that people are saying is about the money. Well, if you go back and look at the 113 General Assembly, Colonel Saxon said something in the General Assembly that there was $1 billion that he was saying that could be rejected, but they didn't do it. Governor Lieutenant McNally, they all agreed, but what happened, Saxon said this, that there's enough excess state funds, that is a $1 billion state fund assess over that they can use toward the school system. But a lot of people are not knowing that because it have not been brought to you. So there's money available in the state that they can help us, but we got to know how to connect with them. We cannot maintain in this office and be heterogeneous people. We got to become homogeneous people where we can relate to the state and they can understand what we need to upgrade our infrastructure of our school. And then finally, we're talking about the infrastructure, about the safety of our school. We got to also understand the safety of our children that's in the school, because there are different things that are happening that's endangering our kids, that's causing them to not to want to come to school. When you look at the AOBs, you look at the STKs, you look at Spring Valley, I'm talking about gangs now.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Natalie McKinney, and I'm running for District 2. I think one of the things we have to do is first assess what we have, and I think we've started that, the board has started that process with the infrastructure study. We need to know where we are so we know where we need to go. Once we determine where we are and where we need to go, then we do need to determine what that cost is and where we can get those funds from. Everyone is correct. Our primary source is the county, but as I believe Althea Greene indicated, we don't get any money. We're the only municipality in Shelby County that does not get any money from its city. We are the only one, Memphis. We make up the largest school district, and yet our city does not contribute to the infrastructure of our school district. So I would definitely collaborate with the city council, but we have one other option as well, is to go up to the state. There was a state study, a letter sent to the General Assembly asking that they go ahead and do a study about investing in our infrastructure. As a board member, that is one of our primary responsibilities, to be legislative advocates. I think that as a board, we would need to advocate and lobby for our state to invest in some of our infrastructure here in Memphis-Shelby County Schools. Yes, we do need to figure out what we need to consolidate. We need to figure out what we may need to repurpose. And we need to think about how can we generate revenue at the same time in that consolidation, repurposing, and also closures. So I think that we need to come up with innovative ways. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll head to the left. Do you guys need a repeat of the question? And oh, your microphone is just behind you. Yes. Are you able to get it? Awesome. All right. New high schools have been proposed in Fraser and Cordova, but the costs have risen beyond what funding may be available. Describe your approach to MSCS infrastructure planning and funding, both for new schools and existing deferred maintenance needs.
Thank you for that question. I am Ozell Pace Jr. running for District 3. First things first, we made an empty promise to the constituents in District 3. We didn't have the funds, but we promised a school. So we lied to the people in District 3. So we first need to retract that statement and allocate the funds. It's been said the city does not pay their part. And we need to tell our city council persons, either pay your parts or we will replace you. It's simple as that. We need to look at grant funding as well. It's been said, state has funding. We get a lot of money already from the county, and we will continue. They're in budget season as well. So we need to continue to ask for more funding, most definitely from our city. But as far as our aging infrastructure, it's an issue. It's been stated that we need to repurpose our schools. I'm gonna use an example. There was a school called Bowtie High School. They closed down this school, but the district came in, a group of people came in, and they repurposed their school because they realized it no longer could be a school, but they turned it into an apartment complex. So we've got to be creative, we got to be innovative, because we can bring in revenue if we think outside the box. So we've got to get rid of the box completely and realize that we deserve better.
Thank you.
Could you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yes. New high schools have been proposed in Fraser and Cordova, but the costs have risen beyond what funding may be available. Describe your approach to MSCS infrastructure planning and funding, both for new schools and existing deferred maintenance needs.
For District 3, I think that is an absolutely loaded question because funds are available, and if we think about even the current budget where we're talking about funds and where they should be allocated, I think it's important for us to look at our current budgets and where we're standing now and put the funds where they need to be, and then ask ourselves, why does our city not pour back into our schools? If we're going to lobby at state level, we need to lobby at city level as well. And so it's just important that our infrastructures are paid attention to. It's very important because our children are in an unsafe environment. I have one teacher friend, she says, Angela, I've had 4 UTIs in 1 year because I don't want to use the facilities, the bathroom in this facility. And so when the teachers who have access to the better facilities don't want to use that, then there's definitely something wrong. We need to sit our children in an environment where they can thrive and where they want to be.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dr. Audrey Elion, District 5. And to your point, we are having schools, you said new schools, and also renovating the existing schools. So we do have money in the budget, but I think it's incumbent upon us, like my colleague said, for us to do or create more creative ways to find additional monies, not only here locally, but we got state funding, we also have federal funding. There are nonprofits that are working on these issues each and every day on infrastructure issues dealing with lead, mold, asbestos, and dilapidated school buildings. So to also work with other programs, other nonprofits, so that we can really act as a village, because it will take all of us working together in order to fund the money that's needed to make sure that our schools are up to par, to make sure that they're safe and nurturing for the students that we do have. So I think for us just to be more creative, hit city council, hit county commission, hit the state, but also get some of those federal dollars that are just hanging there. And once we do that, we'll have better quality of schools in Memphis-Shelby County Schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sable Otey. I'm running for school board in District 5. I do see that there has been a chronic disinvestment in funds for our school. What it's going to take for us is for us to do a comprehensive assessment on each school to see what the schools are actually needing. And once we do that comprehensive assessment, from those smaller dealings that we can actually go ahead and do, we need to go ahead and take action and pour those fundings into those schools that can go ahead and be assessed, and we can go ahead and make those changes. I heard earlier someone say that maybe we need to bring more of the students into the schools. We can compress those kids and we can all put them into one school until we're able to make investments into the larger schools. I'm a former educator, teaching in schools where there's mold, there's bugs. It's not conducive for learning, and the kids understand that, right? And so we have to make it. I also ask kids, because I'm very active in the community, I'm asking the children, what are some things that we can do better as educators? And what struck me the most was a kid said, maybe if y'all took better care of the schools, we want to come to school. If a kid could see that, could understand that, then that's just crazy. We got to see that. We have to pour more into these schools. We have to pour more into the systems here, and we have to pour more into our children. So we got to make sure that we're tracking and we're investing our funds properly into these schools, and we're doing the right thing for our kids. So of course, all of our constituents, they had great answers. They've already said that. I'm trying not to repeat what they've already said, but we need to make sure that we're not having a disinvestment in funding moving forward, and then we're having complete transparency, and that the community and the people of this city can see exactly where the funds are going, because you guys are all paying taxes, and we need to invest in these kids accordingly.
Thank you.
Hi. Hello. Mauricio Calvo, school board member for District 5. Good evening. Thank you for being here. You know, this is complex, right? We have about $1 billion in deferred maintenance, and we are not even finished with the study. Last year, the Shelby County Commission didn't put a single dime for deferred maintenance. If we were to say that we want $20 million, it will take 50 years. 50 years just to cover what we have, just to the basic. That's not even bringing our schools to the level that they need to be. So we can have all the wishful thinking. Yeah, we can lobby the state and the city. They don't have any money, or they don't have the will to do it. In the meantime, I mean, I could wish the Tennessee flag would be yellow, but it's not, right? So what we have to do, the most important thing that we can do right now is prioritize. So we are putting priority in the most urgent needs on the buildings. And the second thing we have to do is we have to really take tough decisions about consolidation. If we consolidate 25 schools, on the first year alone, we're gonna save $100 million that can be directed to these facilities. And then we will save $68 million every single year. Because otherwise the money doesn't exist, guys. We can be, again, thinking that this money is gonna come up suddenly. It's not. So we have to be realistic. You're not gonna hear from me what you wanna hear. You're gonna hear the facts, and I'm gonna be objective about these answers. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna pass it over to Sanaya for our next question.
Tennessee has renewed focus on college and career preparation. I am most interested in STEM. How will you evaluate the district's CCT programming for students during school and with extracurricular offerings? I'll start with the candidate on my left.
Can you repeat that? I got a little feedback.
Stephanie, can I borrow this mic from you? Thank you very much.
Tennessee has renewed focus on college and career preparation. I am most interested in STEM. How will you evaluate the district's CCT programming for students during school and with extracurricular offerings? I'll start with the candidate on my left.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that question. And so I'm a proud graduate of a trade school. And so when I went to, it wasn't STEM. I'm not that intelligent. So I learned graphic design. And so I say all of that because I believe we need to invest more into it. It was stated in the last panel that, you know, the times are changing. Because they're changing, we have to understand. It's a conversation I had with my daughter, and she's 11 years old. You know, if you don't go to college, like, you have to go to a trade school. You have to go to a technical school. Like, you have to get something so you're able to survive in this present day and age. So understanding that college is not an option for everyone, and that we have to invest the necessary resources to ensure that our children who may not be great test takers, who may want to be a plumber, who may want to do brick masonry, or who may want to do CAD design or STEM, have the necessary resources to be able to do so, and that when they graduate, they have those certifications so they're able to go into our workforce and be productive citizens.
Thank you.
And so if I understand the question is, how would we reevaluate the systems and for during school and after school? Okay. All right. So we would evaluate the systems basically, in my opinion, by making sure that we are a global match for what's actually happening in the world now, AI and all of the different technological advances that have taken place. Many of the schools in District 3 are nowhere near, we're still struggling with reading. in my district. And so making sure that we modernize our buildings and provide them with all of the infrastructural needs that are there, however that has to come about. And wherever we find the funds, local, state, or federal, we have to find the funding to do that and evaluate those systems to make sure that our children are prepared when they go outside of the 12th grade, when we release them to the world.
Could you repeat the question one more time?
Board Member Love, could we borrow that microphone? Thank you. There you go.
Tennessee has renewed focus on college and career preparation. I am most interested in STEM. How will you evaluate the district's CCT programming for students during school and with extracurricular offerings?
Okay, that's a good question. First of all, one thing is to evaluate what we're currently doing, but I think we also need to start early. I think career readiness needs to start in elementary school, not just when they get in high school. By the time they're in high school, from working in the school as a substitute teacher, they're confused. They don't know what they want to do. They're saying, I don't have a clue. So I think having programs early, starting in elementary school, teaching them about those different career options that they have access to. We are already using devices in the school, but to accelerate that, expand that, so that way they're starting to learn how that can be transformed into a career option. And then bringing home economics back, bringing mechanics back, bringing the basics back, social etiquette back. Learning how to work with other groups, learning how to work with other people, and teaching them the skills early and consistently before school, during school, after school, and also including their parents, I think is ideal in order to grow those programs.
Thank you.
So I think the best way to assess this is by actually talking to the students. The students' voices are not heard enough. And if we can put these programs into the schools so they can be better prepared outside the walls of the schools, these are our future teachers, our future doctors, our future lawyers, our future HVAC, our future ladies and gentlemen that may work at Starbucks. They're not ready. They're not prepared for the real world. They don't have those basic skills. One of my platforms involve financial literacy. Our children are not financially literate and they're not generally literate. They're not prepared for the real world, and we have to do better with that. We have to take responsibilities, and we have to see where we are, assess where we are by first assessing the programs that we actually have, see what those kids want. We have to engage these children. We have chronic absenteeism because the kids are bored. They're bored. They don't have the proper environments that we can teach them in. They're coming to school, they're cold, they don't feel comfortable, and we have to see what it is that they actually want. How are we going to engage them? Programs and apprenticeships. Some of these kids, they have the barbering classes. They were enthused with those. I see now they have the real estate classes. We need more hands-on and real-life skills experiences. These kids don't know how to endorse a check. They don't have a bank account. I bring programs into the schools where the kids can actually open up bank accounts. Cash App is not a bank account. We need to prepare these kids better. It's our responsibility, and we owe it. The children are our future. I am fully invested because I have 3 boys, and I'm going to fight as hard as I can to ensure that they have the proper education, and we're providing a proper education for other kids as well with our tax dollars.
Thank you.
We know that most of the students graduating from Shelby County Schools will not go to college. So we have to continue to do everything that we can while they're with us to offer them quality credentials that they can use in the workforce, not after college, immediately when they graduate. So currently we have over 40 certificates that we can offer. The new state formula pays us more per every child that we get through these certifications. So the challenge that we have, as board member, this is our job, is not to make sure we're not instructors. These things already exist. What we do have to do is hold the superintendent accountable to make sure that the Office of CCTE is actually implementing these programs, that enough kids know about these programs, that we have enough teachers and instructors to teach these things, and that every student in high school and earlier too know that these certificates exist. So when they finish high school, whether they decide to take on a trade or go to college, they have these skills, from financial literacy to becoming the next healthcare provider or what have you. These things already exist. And money is coming into every child at Shelby County Schools with a new formula that will incentivize us to do that well. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a quick announcement from Vanita about the parking lot.
Yes. Hello. Sorry to interrupt. However, someone driving a white Kia Optima, license plate 970 BFQS, you are blocking in another person. So if that's your car, please report to the parking lot and move it. Again, that is a white Kia Optima, license plate 970 BFQS. Thank you, sorry.
Thank you, Vanita. All right. And Sanaya, maybe you can repeat the question again for our second half of candidates.
Tennessee has renewed focus on college and career preparation. I am most interested in STEM. How will you evaluate the district's CCT programming for students during school and with extracurricular offerings?
Stephanie Love, School Board District 3. I would first talk to the kids in elementary school. They know what they want to be in elementary school. I would then talk to the district. We have a robust CTC program. It is not where it needs to be, but it was robust. And then I would talk to my board members because I can't approve a single thing without talking to at least 5 of them. Then I would go and get the funding. Money makes the world go round. Our teachers are underpaid. Our schools are underfunded. That is what I would do first.
Thank you.
I think that CCTE is very important and relevant for this day and time. As I understand the question, the way I would evaluate it is I would go back to the previous year to see what was taught and to see how many students graduated and moved into those careers. Careers like plumbing, auto mechanics. These people make a lot of money. And so everybody's not going to go to college to be a doctor or lawyer. So we've got to make sure that those programs are available. Also, as far as STEM is concerned, we've got the Blue Oval coming, online real soon. These kids need to be trained for the jobs of the future. And those jobs of the future depend on STEM. AI is here. You hear people talking about it, but artificial intelligence is taking over the world, and our kids are going to have to be trained in order to operate those systems.
Thank you.
Althea Greene, District 2. I hear people say that programs, home economics, and those programs no longer exist. I want to correct you, they do exist, and they're called culinary. We have a CCTE program. Names have changed, but those certifications are still there. This year at graduation, I noticed more students than ever with courts on around vocation. So we do have programs that exist. We have one school in Memphis with the AI program, the only school in the United States. And so, yes, we are moving in the right direction. We are continuing to make sure every child may not be college bound, but every child should graduate with a future doing something. And so as we continue to add to CCTE, we have an awesome CCTE program. We will continue to develop that. Many people don't know that students graduate in 11th grade with pilot license. We have many programs. Perhaps we could do a better job of making sure you know what programs we are offering. Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, Ernest Gillespie, District 2. I go back to what Abraham Maslow said in his hierarchy. He broke it down and said this. First of all, you got to meet their needs. You got to find out where a person is in order to offer them what they need and see where they be engaged enough to do it. One thing that we look at when it comes to our kids understanding the technical things that's happening now, we got to make them compatible to the global concept. Because all of our children now, they have tablets and different things that they are working with, phones, so they're familiar with that. So one thing that's hindering, even when I was in school before I went to the university, was Memphis State when I went, we had the Fortran thing that they had us doing our own program. But when I went to Douglas, my father registered me for a course, and I didn't want to take it because I was a football player. It taught me how to have dexterity in my hand when it came to typing. And when I got hired at the post office, before I retired from them, it helped me to move up. There are a lot of people can work with a computer, but they don't have dexterity enough to type. Pecking won't get you there. So all people there, all of us have some type of skills. And I want to say this since I'm in a church, I believe I can say this, that Jesus saw some fellows fishing one day. And when he saw them fishing, he said this, I'm going to make you fishers of men. Oh,
Thank you very much.
I appreciate the question about evaluation. Before you can evaluate anything, you need to know what the plan is. I don't know what the plan is. We need to have a strategic plan that is designed to ensure that we are doing what we need to do for our students. One of the things that we need to make sure of, and it's part of my platform, is that we are actually engaging youth, parents, community, personnel in the whole process of strategic planning. When you engage in a strategic plan, you're thinking about what are our goals and our objectives. So what are you asking the youth? What do they want to do? What are they interested in doing? What are they talented in doing? A lot of youth don't know what they can do because we don't show them. So there are different things that we can do to make sure that we have a strategic plan that is aligned to our budget, that is making sure that we are infusing the things that we need. So you set metrics, you set benchmarks, you set a timeline, and then you make sure that we're meeting those metrics in that timeline. And the way that you do that is you go back to the very people we're trying to serve. One of the things I want to make everyone understand is that, yes, we have a great graduation rate, which is 80%, but we do not have a ready graduate rate of just 26%. Do you know what that means? That means that our youth are not ready to go out into the world, either career or coursework, career or college. We have to focus on what they'd like us to focus on. So we need to have a very clear strategic plan aligned to what they want and need.
Thank you very much. Oh, you can hold on to it right there. Thank you. For our next question, this will be a hand-raised question that everyone answers all at once. Last week, the current Memphis School Board criticized Superintendent Marie Fagans for her communication of proposed job cuts at the district by voting to approve a resolution ordering her to press pause. Candidates, raise your hand if you would have voted yes on this resolution. Raise them high. Yes to pause, yeah. We'll do it one more time. Last week, the current Memphis School Board criticized Superintendent Marie Fagans for her communication of proposed job cuts at the district by voting to approve a resolution ordering her to press pause. All candidates, once more please, raise your hand if you would have voted yes on this resolution. Thank you. We'll move to a follow-up here. How will you oversee the district's budget from your board seat? Explain what you'd expect to deliberate publicly, how you'd make decisions, how you'd bring the community along, and when. I'll start with the candidate to my right.
Stephanie Love, District 3. First off, I would go to each and every one of my schools, talk to the principals and the students and teachers. Then I would formulate each and every response. And then I would communicate, not deliberate, with my board members. Then I would go to community meetings, and then I would, community engagement is a critical focus on my re-election. And then I would collaborate with the community and see what they need. I am obligated to my community. I don't work for the board. I work for my community. Their issues are the most important thing to me.
Thank you.
As for me, every decision that I would make for District 3 would be informed by the will of my constituents. I would go to my constituents in the community, District 3, to see what they want, what are their priorities. So their priorities would be my priorities since I live in District 3 in the community. Then I would go to the schools to make sure that the teachers and the principals are on board with what my constituents want. But the constituents are the ones who vote for me. A lot of times, the teachers or the principals don't necessarily live in my district. So I would be responsible and my decision would be informed by the constituents of District 3. That includes the people in Lucy, part of Raleigh, Millington, Fraser area. They are the most important. They are the ones who I'm asking to hire me August the 1st. And if I don't do a good job within 4 years, they're the ones who will fire me in 4 years. So my decisions will be informed by my constituents. Then I understand that for the board, I'm only one person, so I've got to be collegial with the school board, my fellow members, to work out and hash out the details. I understand that the superintendent is my only employee as a school board commissioner.
Thank you very much.
Truth to power.
Thank you. A school board commissioner has 3 responsibilities: to make sure we pass the budget, to make sure we hold our superintendent accountable, and to make sure policies align with that. The budget is owned by the board. We work with our employee to come up with a budget. It is our job to make sure whatever we want to see in there, we have an opportunity as school board commissioners to sit and collaborate and to make sure those items are there. We have an opportunity to listen to the schools that we represent, to listen to the people that we represent. All of that plays a major part in us working on the budget. We are in budget season and we are still ironing it out and making sure that we agree with what's important for this district and to make sure those items are always included in the budget. We want to make sure the budget is really reflective of what we want to do to move this district forward. Thank you.
First of all, we must understand that budget is not numbers. And we have to understand that there are functional budgets, and the functional budget is going to look at those that's working within the organization, that the functional budget can eventually become a workforce budget. But if I was working, I would do what you call a zero-based budget. The zero-based budget would be a budget that I'm not looking at what was last year. We're going to start from zero. And then we're going to look at every item on the line to justify that it is something that we can use and we can give clarity that it would be of such that we can approve it. Then the next thing about the budget, when you look at this, it'd be a mud-time, what you call a mud-time year budget. That way, when you look at, you will implement inflation and things that's happening within the year. That way you wouldn't have a shortfall. We wouldn't be where we are now when we got a deficit. If you know a budget is continually working, and then you got to have what you call a performance budget. You got to look at what worked, what does not work. So a budget, people look at as is not numbers. So that's one thing that we got to look. I wouldn't go to the people in my community with a false plan until, first of all, we put this budget together and look at what we need to operate within our district. We said we got 110 students, 1,000 students, whatever we got. Well, is that true? Because a lot of our students, our money, okay, I better stop.
Thank you. You've got an eye on the timekeeper. I appreciate it.
All right. To be clear, the board has 4 functions: budget, policy, performance of the superintendent to monitor that, and we are to be the legislative advocates, both local, state, and federal. In setting policy, we have to follow policy. We have a policy that gives a clear outline of how we set the budget. That policy is very clear about the process and who is involved in the process. The superintendent with the administration provides a proposed budget to the board. That proposed budget should be aligned to an approved strategic plan that deals with academics, operations, instruction, facilities, and personnel. All of those things. And then it also includes a process for community input. For me, not only would I follow that policy, but I would ask our board members, do we need to review it and change it if there's something that we need to do more before we even start the process? But to be clear, we have a very clear process that if we follow it, all of you would know what it is, when it is, and what we're doing. We need to remain transparent to our policies. We just don't set them for you, we set them for ourselves, and we need to follow that.
Thank you. All right. Ozell, thank you. Do you need a repeat of the question, or are you good?
No, I'm good. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Yeah.
Yes, so the Tennessee Board Association does outline, and it is very clear. I most definitely agree what we can and cannot do as school board members. Let's just be honest. We do not have a balanced budget. As it has been stated, have we seen on the news, there is no budget. But as school board members, if we look at our current budget and the needs in our school, I am not going into the schools because let's be truthful and honest. In District 3, no one is going into our schools. No one is asking about the budget. It hasn't happened in over 10 years. So we must be honest about what's currently going on. And because it's not currently happening, what are we going to do to reach the constituents in District 3? So we're going to have the community meetings. We're going to look at social media as an avenue, and every avenue to connect with the community. Even if there's right now, we're knocking on doors trying to get people to vote for us. In that same manner, we should be knocking on those doors. Hey, we have a budget meeting coming up, and it's going to affect you. It's going to affect all of us. It's going to affect our schools. As a parent that has a child in the Memphis-Shelby County Schools, it affects my home. It affects my neighborhood, and I am not going to lie to you, and you shouldn't be lied to like somebody's going to do something. It has not been done, but we need a balanced budget. As it's stated, the Tennessee Board Association has it outlined. We can have a balanced budget. We've got some tough conversations that we've got to have.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. How would we direct and manage the budget if we are, or when we are elected for school board commissioner?
That's generally it. I'll give it to everybody one more time.
Okay.
How will you oversee the district's budget from your board seat? Explain what you'd expect to deliberate publicly, how you'd make decisions, how you'd bring the community along, and when.
Okay, I would bring the community along from the beginning. I think that that's important because we begin with transparency from the onset. And how would I manage and direct the funds? I would most definitely look at the classroom. I think that's how we determine where the monies are going. We look at the classrooms, we look at the students, the scholars, the teachers, and we determine what the need is. And for me, because early literacy is at the top of my list, that is where my funding, that is where I would make sure that I would direct the funding to go, is to early literacy and making sure that our children are reading. When you have 24% roughly of students only reading at a grade at or above grade level, then we definitely have a deficit that we owe them so much more than what we're giving them. And so I would approach that through community efforts, collaborations with churches, reading rooms, whatever we have to do, collaborating with the community, the faith community, and parents, because I honestly believe that the parents understand what is needed for their children, as well as the teachers, and understanding where the monies need to go. I think that's important.
So first, I would start with the budget. Let us see the budget. Transparency is key. Is it written somewhere? Every time I go online, I see different versions or stuff that's in the plan that's coming out in September, coming out in October. First thing, I want to see where it is. I want it to be visible so that we all know. I want it to be communicated over and over again, even at the board meetings. Then I want the parents to be involved. I want them to know what their dollars are being spent for, what the dollars are going towards. Is it going towards the student? And if not, then we need to look back at the budget, reassess the budget, and then make changes to the budget. I would love to include the education associations in it, our nonprofit groups, to find out what things they're wanting. And as part of my platform, I talk about mental health needs. That's one of the top priorities I see. Literacy, yes, competitive pay for teachers, those things, and infrastructure. Those things should all be included in the budget along with many other things. So at least having a conversation, meeting with the board, talking with the superintendent, let's look at this budget. If it's too much, if we don't have enough funding, then let's see how we can get the funds to accomplish the goals that we need in order to meet the needs of our students in our schools.
Thank you. Just try not to echo anything that either of the constituents just mentioned. Each of you guys in here, you have a voice, and we all have the power to make a change now. On my journey, I actually went into every school in my district, all 8 of them, and I provided breakfast for these guys, all 8 of them. I went out into the community. I asked if I could get some breakfast for these teachers that worked so hard. I went in and showed my appreciation single-handedly by myself, and I asked these teachers, what do you need? What can we do to make a change? What are some areas of things that are going great? What are some areas of things that are going not so great? This is where we need to invest our funds. Principals, I asked them the same thing. The principals had different answers from the teachers. I also had the opportunity to talk to the parents, and guess what? I always talk to the kids because the kids matter. So we understand there's a disinvestment in budgeting. We understand that monies flow in and out, and we don't know, there's no transparency, or it's not in plain English for us to understand, okay? My husband and I work in the financial services industry. We run community workshops all the time. We understand we pretty much have to create IEPs for the general public because they don't know what we're saying. It's like we're speaking Spanish or another Russian, another language. So we have to put it in plain English so people can understand where this investment of funds are actually going. So getting into the community, we have to make them understand by creating those forums for those parents, forums for the teachers, online surveys, putting information out on social media, robocalls, whatever it is that we have to do to make sure they're involved. They have to feel like they're involved and their voice matters. You have people that feel voiceless. Thank you.
All this 70% of the budget is stuff that we have to do. Nobody can change that. Most of that goes to paying teachers, paying schools, things that are required or mandated by state or federal law. So there's a small number, about 25 to 30%, that we have a little wiggle room. Now that adds to a chunk of money, right? But you heard earlier, everybody talk about suffering facilities, teachers not getting paid enough. So as much as I would like to tell you that I want to talk to every child and every person, that can sound like a really good political campaign, but the reality is that we are where we are. We have a new superintendent, we have a budget that we have to pass in the next few weeks, and we have a school year that begins in a few weeks, right? So I'm proud to have made some decisions that support getting teachers more money, and that decision alone, going from $47,000 to $50,000 as the starting minimum salary, not enough, by the way, that is a decision that costs $34 million in the first year for the school district. So we're listening. What we have to do is we have to make sure that these decisions are sustainable and that they're realistic. So what you're going to hear from me in the next few weeks, in the next few days, I am asking the superintendent for a plan of how these things, these decisions that she's making are going to impact our students. And the second, my colleagues and myself have to set boundaries and have to set accountability to measure in the next month, in the next 6 months, and in the next year of how these decisions are being made. So that's what we're going to be doing. This is budget season. This budget was not informed by the community, but thanks.
Thank you very much.
This is another raise hand question.
We're going to actually, I think, go ahead, just everyone, so that you can have the expectation of time to keep things even with the panel that we had just before us. We'll probably go until about 8:20 this evening to have time for another audience question. And Sanaya, if you could go ahead and help the candidates hear question number 8.
Explain the greatest academic deficit in the district and how you would would direct Memphis-Shelby County Schools to improve these outcomes. I'll start with the candidate on my left.
Can you repeat that for me?
Explain the greatest academic deficit in the district and how you would direct Memphis-Shelby County Schools to improve these outcomes.
Thank you so much. So it's literacy, reading. In the early panel, they talked about the new law affecting our 3rd and 4th graders. Reading is the biggest thing. Reading is the foundation for everything. We can talk all we want to about CCTE, but if we do not have children who know how to read on their grade level, we failed them. And so as a community, we need to realize that we need to push more funds into, and I've heard it earlier, early literacy. We have to allocate those funds to ensure all of our children are on an appropriate grade level. And to go ahead and just put this out here, I do not agree with Governor's lead, this law that it was passed. I don't think it's appropriate for the students of Memphis-Shelby County Schools. But to answer, reading is the main thing. That's our deficit when it comes to education.
Thank you.
I would have to agree that reading is the deficit that shows up and doesn't show up on the Memphis-Shelby County School Board budget. Reading and early literacy, and this does not just begin at 3rd grade, so the decision shouldn't be made just at 3rd grade with one point of data. We have got to change the trajectory of our children's lives, and that starts long before they get to school. So we need to begin to assess them long before they get to 3rd grade to determine what it is that's missing. What do we need to do? How do we need to approach this? How do we need to bring them to the place where they need to be so that when they get to 3rd grade, they're already top tier. When they get to 3rd grade, that they are facing what they need to face with confidence and everything that they need. So as parents, and see, that involves everybody. That involves everybody, from parents, reading to our children from the womb, from early childhood, introducing them to words at 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, so that they are acquainted with words and that they are comfortable reading and that they sit in the confidence of knowing how to read. So early literacy is definitely where I would place my focus.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you all.
I agree with my colleagues about early literacy, and literacy is very important. But first, they have to learn letters. Let's get back to phonics. Let's get back to the basics. ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. That may sound elementary, but we're having kids starting school for the first time in the 1st grade. So they have missed a lot of those fundamental things that's needed to even get to the point of reading. So I would say definitely getting back to the phonics, getting back to learning the letters, getting back to learning the numbers. Once they know how to do the letters, then they can write a word. Then they can read the word. Then they have to understand what the word means. Then they can put it in a sentence. Then they can put it in a paragraph. And then they can pass some of these tests. So definitely getting back to that, but starting even earlier, starting in pre-K. Let's work with them. Let's start in the community. There are so many community programs for our youth to work with them, to get them where they need to be. And we just need to encourage parents and also help the parents. We have a lot of parents that can't read. So it's hard for them to teach their children how to read if they're having difficulty reading. So we closed Messick, we closed some of those schools. We need to bring back some of those schools as well in order to help our parents be able to teach the students how to do those fundamental things. So by the time they get in school, they have some firm foundation, and us as teachers and educators and as the board, we're going to continue to help them prosper so that they can continue to strive and thrive in this community.
Thank you very much.
They say those that are closest to the problem are closest to the solution. My son, he was 4, he's now 5, he had issues with speech, so I had to get parent intervention. Myself, I had to make sure that myself and my husband, we were helping him. We got speech therapy in school for him, and we also sought help outside of school at Le Bonheur. This stuff needs to start with these kids in pre-K and even before. We need smaller class sizes. We need literacy coaches inside of these classes. These kids need to be tested before they are in 3rd grade and 4th grade. We need student learning objectives so that we can we can measure these kids along the way. We don't need to wait until they get ready to go to 3rd grade when they're supposed to be reading to learn. They're still learning to read at that age. And this is where we're misstepping. We have to make sure we start at an early age. And yes, it does start at home. Yes, we have parents that don't understand what it is that they need to do. So we need to provide those services for those parents. There are several nonprofits who need the head count. We can bring them into the schools after school, since money is an issue for us right now. They already have funding. Have them come to the schools, provide their services in the schools, the services that we are needing to help better our children and our academic system in our community.
Thank you.
The most important person inside that school is the teacher. And early literacy and literacy is important, but so is math and social studies and every single class. Because our kids, as you heard earlier, are graduating, but they're not college or career ready. So what we have to do this week, and I want to continue to, is to support teachers, not only with salaries, but with the resources that they need. Then it is on the superintendent and her team to ensure that we're moving the needle. Right now, we're not. But we are, hopefully with the new superintendent, those things are about to change. But absolutely, teachers need the support. We're learning in a different way nowadays. We have to prepare students not only for today, but for tomorrow's workforce. So investing in teachers is the most important thing that we can do if we want to move the needle.
Thank you. Do you need the question again, or are you good?
Yes.
Sure.
Explain the greatest academic deficit in the district and how you would direct Memphis-Shelby County Schools to improve these outcomes.
Poverty. It is not a factor per se. Imagine anyone in here going to bed without eating, going to school without eating. You're going to be messed up. Poverty is a real issue in our education system. The houseless, the homeless population, the crime, the jobs, the economic impact, it all leads to poverty. It is not our kids can learn. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Poverty is a issue in our schools.
Thank you.
Jesse Jeff, School Board District 3. As a former teacher, there are a myriad of issues that contribute to the decline in academics. I have an intimate knowledge, having taught in this district for 20 years. The first one is the curriculum. The curriculum has been decimated over the years. When I started teaching in '98, we had a dedicated curriculum. There was a curriculum map, there were pacing guides. I knew what I should be doing every day of the week to keep the kids. If you know it, whether you know it or not, there are some classrooms that don't actually have books. They don't take books home, they take consumables, and they print copies every day for the kids. We need to go back to books, for one thing. There's another thing that no one's mentioned, and I've been waiting on somebody to mention that contributes to the decline in academics, and that's truancy. Our district has a truancy rate of 41 to 45%. If you don't come to school, you can't be taught. You have to come to school. And we know that truancy contributes to crime as well. If you have 5 unexcused absences, you're considered truant. If there are 10 unexcused absences or more, you're referred to juvenile court. So we've got to get more parental involvement in that thing. I don't know if I mentioned or not, about the 78% of our kids are deficient in ELA and 83% are deficient in math.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Curriculum and truancy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Althea Greene District 2. Literacy is where we have to continue to invest and spend the dollars. We can't wait until they get to 3rd and 4th grade. It means investing in early childhood and pre-K and kindergarten first grade and second grade, making sure that those teachers have the resources they need. Teachers make the magic happen every day in the classroom. We have to allow them to teach, provide them with the necessary resources. Yes, we've made a $28 million investment in teacher salaries. That's good. But next year, teachers are going to expect more because the cost of living is going to continue to go up. We've got to invest in literacy, make sure our children are at school every day. That's a 20-point-something% of absenteeism as a district. Chronic absenteeism is not that high, but it is disturbing. So yes, we have a problem getting children to school, but as Commissioner Love, it's why they are not coming to school. As we continue to invest in literacy, putting elementary assistants in every classroom to make sure teachers have extra support. When we get back to small group instructions, we will see that academic needle move. Excited about our new superintendent's plan to invest more in literacy, to put more help in classrooms, and we will see that academic needle move. Yes, we will do better, we can do better, and we shall do better. I still have hope in Memphis-Shelby County Schools.
Thank you.
I would like to say this, I don't want to be redundant, but just listening to what have already been said about the literacy, which is true. Reading is a big factor in our school. Going back to the phonics and syntax and going to graphemes, and then we go into the semantics. We got to understand these things are very important to help our kids. Mark White, Representative Mark White in the 113 General Assembly said something that we shouldn't wait until the kids get into the fourth and fifth grade. We got 50% of our children that's 5, is not even able right now to go into kindergarten because they're not equipped. He talked about that. So what we need to do, and what the colleague said up here on the stage, is true about truancy. When I was at Sheffield, the kids, the truancy rate, everything was just up high. And what I did was, I would get to school at 5 in the morning for those elementary kids, and open the door, bring them into the cafeteria, because the mothers didn't want to drop these elementary kids off in the dark when daytime saving time. It was too dark. So they would bring them to school about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. The federal funded money deals with our first period. So when these kids are absent, we're losing money. So I was able to do that. We changed the rate. Attendance and everything changed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Could you repeat that question for me? Thank you.
Explain the greatest academic deficit in the district and how you direct Memphis-Shelby County Schools to improve these outcomes.
So I wanted to pinpoint how we as board members would direct Memphis-Shelby County Schools to do this. We would direct our superintendent, our one employee, to come up with a comprehensive literacy plan across all grade bands. Not just third and fourth, not fifth or sixth, but across all grade bands. We need a prescription for all of our grade bands. The other thing that I would make sure that we understand is that it is important for us to invest in early literacy. It is important for us to understand that. And one of the things I know we do is we start too late. There's a very successful program that has just started here in Memphis that starts at 2 years old. 2 years old. How do we as a board, in our lobbying efforts, in our elected official capacity, begin to think innovatively about how do we define our school system? How do we define elementary and secondary education? Do we define it at 5 or do we define it at 2? Let's stop doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That is the definition of insanity. Let us move together as a collective elected body and lobby our state to redefine that. And you know what? Let's have some courage and let us redefine it through policy.
Thank you. Thank you. Everyone in the audience, give yourself a pat on the back for still being here at nearly 8:30 on a Monday. We are going to get to our final question, which will be an audience question. And candidates, you'll have 45 seconds to answer this one. So as you're thinking about your answers, you'll have about half as much time as you've had on the previous questions. One more note for our audience. If you have used our childcare this evening, they unfortunately are having to wrap up for the evening. So if you would not mind making your way to that part of the hallway, I appreciate it again, everyone, for being here. And we are going to get on to our final audience question. The question is, what would you do to help teachers' voices be heard without fear of retribution? I'll start to the right.
Read the question again.
Sure. What would you do to help teachers' voices be heard without fear of retribution?
The same thing I am doing now, talking to the teachers, implementing policies for the teachers. I created the nepotism policy, and I got that passed by unanimous vote. We have a big problem with nepotism in our district. Teachers only want to teach. They don't want to be bombarded with lesson plans and curriculums and unruly kids. They only want to teach. When we do that, we will see our academics soar.
Thank you.
For the last 8 years, that is exactly what I did, protecting teachers and educators. So I help empower teachers to stand up for their rights through associations like the United Education Association. They do a great job of protecting teachers. So this gets into a retention thing too, where teachers do not leave schools, they leave principals. So I think there need to be more sensitivity training for principals on how to talk and treat their teachers so that teacher will stay and want to be there. And so basically, teachers need to feel empowered, not be afraid. When I was in the classroom, I wasn't smart enough to be afraid. I only fear God. And so that's how they should live their lives as well.
Thank you.
I think as we encourage our educators to be members of our teachers' unions, they do an excellent job of listening to teachers, addressing concerns, and meeting back with the district representatives to iron out problems. But I think in the coming year, we need to think about a liaison. Sometimes teachers are afraid to talk to people in the building. What does it look like to have a liaison, a person that works between the board, works between the unions, and the superintendent? Teachers are very important to us. We must continue to respect them, listen to them, and make sure there is no retaliation when they do address concerns before us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I must agree with what I've heard. We must stand firm with our teachers. We must be transparent with them, let them know that as long as they're in the rights and following the policy and the principles of the school, then we'll stand with them. And I think once we do that, everything will be all right with our teachers. They shouldn't be afraid that there's going to be retaliation that's going to come against them when they're saying something that is right, because we need our teachers. If it wasn't for our teachers, our school would suffer, our children would suffer, so we need them.
Thank you.
I think one of the things is that teachers need to trust the process. And right now, we don't have a process that ensures that teachers are not retaliated against. And that is something that I would definitely make sure of finding that right process in doing that. So perhaps it's us having our separate general counsel that is only beholden to the board and not to the superintendent. And that complaint goes through our general counsel, comes directed to the board, and the board then deals with its one employee who then deals with the school leader who that employee employs and has power over. But I want to make sure that teachers are empowered and emboldened to ensure that they can talk to us and have a way to do that, and not feel like if we give some kind of process and it's not anything that we are really beholden to. So that is what I would make sure I do.
Thank you.
So it is important to have our education association, our teachers union at the table. We cannot make decisions without them. Their voice needs to be heard, but we need to also realize, as has been stated several times already, our teachers should feel comfortable in talking and voicing themselves. So I like the idea about the general counsel. And so teachers should be able to know. I've talked to many teachers in my process. They are afraid. They are afraid they're going to be moved if they speak up for themselves. No teacher should be afraid of retaliation or retribution because it shouldn't happen in Memphis-Shelby County Schools. But we have to rid the culture that we currently have, and it starts with some upper leadership, and it starts with the board as well.
Thank you.
I would say I agree with my fellow panelists that it is important that teachers know that they have a voice. We partner with the unions and the NEA and the Teacher Education Association, and making sure that teachers understand that we know they're the ones with the real answers. They're the ones sitting in the classroom. They have a pulse on what really needs to happen, and they need to know that we trust them and we trust and value what they have to say about this, and that they won't be threatened by that. And so we implement things just as have been spoken, but it's just time for change, because after 10 years, when we've had a chance to do that and we have not done that, it's just time for change.
Thank you very much.
So I think it's very important that teachers do have a voice, that we're listening to the things that they're saying in a safe environment. And that may mean that we may need to meet with the teachers outside of just a regular school, or on Saturdays when we can meet with them without the principal being there, without other people being there, so that way we can really hear what they have to say. Also have surveys available that we are keeping, not anything that goes through the district or it's on the district computer, but something that we have access to, so that way we can get those results ourselves and work with our teacher unions and organizations so that we can make sure that we're meeting their needs, collaborate, write the things up, reassess when need be, and then also change the process if it's not working. And if a teacher is retaliated against, then we need to handle that accordingly.
It's all about culture and climate. The teachers need to know that we actually have a genuine heart and that we actually care about them. I think about best business practices. I have people here that work in the organization with me, and they're here because I built their relationship with them. I showed them that I love them and that I care about them. A lot of times it's not about how much you know. They don't really care about that a lot of times. They just want to know that you care about them and that what they have to say is important and what they do is important, that their families are important, that their mission and their journeys and their goals are important to you as well. So I would say that, and just taking their input. I like to do fun things, seeing what it is that we can do for team building events and other things like that. So just showing them that you care, even if you tell them you love them, from time to time, they appreciate that too. So I'll leave you with that. It's my time. It's okay with Otey.
Thank you.
I agree. We have to create an environment where Memphis-Shelby County Schools is a great place to work, but it's also a place where all employees, not only teachers, are supported and held accountable. Sometimes teachers and other employees, they're humans too, just like all of us, and they're not perfect. So what we have to do, we have to have the processes in place through policy where people feel like they are being treated fairly, but they're also being held accountable, they're supported, and that is the role of the board. It would set a very dangerous precedent if board members start meeting with teachers every time there's a complaint. There's law policy, and the law is very clear on who we talk to and who's our employee. The superintendent is our employee, not every single teacher, because we will never finish. So again, a climate and a policy that supports people but also holds them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. That is time. That is our panel. That is our event. If you could give a round of applause to these candidates. Excellent. Thank you. And another round of applause to my co-moderator, Sanaya, who contributed some really excellent questions this evening. I am going to pass the mic over to Vanita, if she is still here, or Kalila. But as you guys exit, don't forget that it was raining when you came in. So if you have any raincoats or umbrellas, make sure that you grab those things on your way out. And thank you all very much for joining us this evening. Kalila.
All right, make sure you please get any trash that you have in the building and throw it away. Our takeaways are early voting is July 12th through July 27th. Election day is August 5th. We have 5 seats up for election. August 1st. August 1st is election day. 5 seats are up. We can change the school board or you can elect to keep who you want to vote for. Districts 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. If you're retired, vote. If you homeschool, vote. If your child is in private school, vote. Charter school, vote. We need to turn up for our kids. All in for kids. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.